Welcome to Grow Your Strength, first new training program for 2025. And we're going to start with some face-up breathing. Thank you for joining. Taking some time to connect your posture to the floor. If you can extend your legs out and that feels okay on your back, then please do. Otherwise, you can have your knees bent. Just taking some time to do a little scan of how you're connecting to the floor through your heels, back of your legs, your hips, your shoulders, up through the back of your head, your arms. All right, so with the breath, a couple more breath cycles. Nice strong inhale, long exaggerated exhale, just letting everything relax and recoil. After your next breath cycle, we'll start to work on some knee extensions. So if you like to take a stretch strap for knee and ankle work, you can grab that now. I'm going to do it without a strap today just to give that variation. Just pulling my knee towards my shoulder and then extending the leg out, pushing the heel to the roof, spreading the toes. Give yourself about 5 knee bends and extends. You can continue the focus on your breathing as well. Holding the leg extended, start to point and flex the ankle, pointing the toes to the roof, pulling the toes to the shin and spreading the toes. Rolling the sole of the foot towards the midline and out. Slow enough that you can kind of find your end range. And then into some big circles. I'll just do a few each way of those. Wonderful. Okay, switching sides. Just adjusting through my posture, non-working leg extended out. Same routine, knee bends and extends, and then working the ankle only. Point and flex. Now I've got my ankle rolls in and out. And my circles. Isn't this a nice, easy way to start training? Yeah, kind of ease yourself into this. Working on all the joints. Okay, so now we take it over to hands and knees. We'll go through some flexion extension cycles. Just taking some time to round your back up to the roof. Drop your head, let your head be heavy. And then slowly move through your spine, dropping your front side down. You can drop the chest down and see if you can draw the shoulder blades together a little bit. Gently look up. Try not to push extremes. Just where will your back go? Improving flexion and extension. Little motion gift to your spine. After your next cycle, we'll transition to half kneeling. In half kneeling, just take some time to level out the hips. Get yourself into a position that you feel balanced. A little wider is generally easier for your foot. And we're going to do shoulder cars. So taking the posture upright, spread the fingers and start to bring the arms up nice and slow. Prior to doing a training program, like this is waking up the body, sort of creating a movement map of how your shoulders are functioning today. We did ankles, we did knees, we did our back. You can bring your hand up into the small of your back, just working the shoulder into internal rotation. And then now slowly rewind. Try not to lean back, get nice and upright in your posture. And this is telling your brain a little bit about the shoulder range that you can access. And that's important as we start to add load and support ourselves with planks or pressing exercises. We'll switch the down knee, find that place of support again, and then one more time through this. Returning to some nice deep breathing. Push the arms back. As I bring my hands around, my palms are facing out. Bring one hand up to the small of my back. How does it feel side to side? And then slowly rewinding this. Just being patient with myself. And then the last joint work we'll do is for the hips. So we'll return to hands and knees. I call this hip cars or controlled articular rotations. I tuck my back toes, center the weight between my hands, and then just slowly start to move my hip through as big a circle as I can access, one circle in each direction. But being mindful that you're not changing your back position or weight shifting over to the non-moving side. Those things sound simple to maintain, but really I'm working quite hard here. You can tell in my voice as I continue to move just my hip joint. And there's one side almost complete, so you get a sense of how slow I'm going. And I'm just going to adjust my posture again and switch sides, pushing the floor away, staying connected. And changing directions. We'll take it to side lying now and work on some hip strength in a clamshell exercise. Rolling my top hip forward, supporting my head with my bottom arm. I'm going to do 10 of the knee only exercises, accessing the range I can get to by lifting my knee up, keeping my feet relaxed. This is externally rotating through the hip. Should feel the work somewhere in this area. And if you wanted to, when you're doing the tape, you could take the time to put a loop band on. There's pros and cons with a loop band. Of course, it's going to give you more resistance, but it also tends to limit your range. And the second set of 10 for this program is going to be lifting the knee and foot off to a range that you can get to. Now, if your top hip is not rolled forward, you're going to get a lot higher than me. So I'll show you if I'm not rolled forward, I can get my leg way up there. If I'm rolled forward, I'm just really optimizing all of the muscles in the side of my hip. Getting a nice little warm, somewhat of a burn feeling here. There we go. And then we'll switch sides. I'm not doing a very good job of counting this morning, so approximately 10 and 10, please. Knee only to start. Nice deep breathing. And then into the knee and foot lift. Excellent. After you've completed your repetitions here, we'll go into a bridge position, double bridges for 5, and then the option to take it to single leg bridge. So onto your back, adjusting the posture. If you have a big curve in your back, you can decrease that a little bit, and then lifting the hips up, activating the muscles, and then down and release. Sometimes the head needs a little adjustment, literally and figuratively. Just keep the chin tuck. So as you come up, you're not stressing through your neck. Now you could stay with the double bridges if this is where you're at, or you can take one foot off and try 5 single leg bridges. This is quite a bit harder, might take a little bit more concentration not to let the hips drop as you come up. You can grab onto your thigh, wrap your arm around your rib cage. Little tricks to keep you locked into position. Works well. So gifting that hip some strength. Okay, we move from here to reverse tabletop. So finding the connection from your low back through your neck that feels right. So again, big arch, you're going to just decrease that arch a bit. Still have a lower lumbar curve, but now I'm floating my knees over my hips and anchoring in my shoulders. You can wiggle your hands and feet, stay loose. Now, I can't talk and breathe through my nose at the same time, but try to breathe through your nose. And then challenge that postural connection and the breath flow. So as you start to move your arms and legs, you can even roll your head a little side to side. Can you maintain the posture and the breathing? When you have sufficiently challenged this through your torso, just bring your knees in for a moment and give yourself a rest. You can roll side to side. And then reset that position again. Stay loose in the neck, in the hands and the feet. And then as you start to move, be a little more creative. You can play with the width. You don't want to reach further than you can control. So if you reach out and your hip goes clunk or something like that, or there's some pain, please just stay within a shorter range of motion. And as you get stronger, you will be able to control more distance. Okay, next up, brought back our roll from the elbows. So coming over onto the elbows, you take one knee and bend and then lift and roll into this position. From here, I gently can look up, mobilizing my neck and look down at my elbow and then look back up. And then just bring myself back to my elbow position and roll to the other side. So I'm bending my right knee, lifting that knee off the floor, and I plant my foot, looking down, looking up, rolling back through. Doesn't have to be exactly this way, but one of the things you want to do is make sure you're not shrugging in this bottom shoulder. So push the floor away, get a nice centered shoulder. You can spread your fingers. Just opening up the body as you roll from side to side. I'm going to go through one more each way and then move on. Coming to hands and knees again, I'm going to work on scapular mobility, and the scapula are your shoulder blades. So as you come to hands and knees, if you sink your chest to the floor, maybe pull your shoulder blades together, and then as you push the floor away, there's a sensation that your shoulder blades are being pulled apart. This is your scapular mobility or scapular glide. Try to go through 10 of these without involving your back. So sometimes when we push away, we might round up into that flexion. Try to keep your back neutral and glide shoulder blades together and apart. The other cue I want to give you is to try and make sure you're not shrugging. So that looks great. It's a very subtle move, and it's good and important to have some movement through the shoulder blades that's separate from the back. Okay, so we'll transition from here to a bear hold. Tucking the back toes, lifting the knees off the floor. Now we're loading the shoulders. So find a middle ground for those shoulder blades. They're not completely sunken together and they're not completely pushed away. Somewhere in the middle. Spread the fingers. Take the weight through the fingers as well as the base of your hand. When you need a rest after about 3 breaths, just float the knees back and give yourself an opportunity to stretch the wrists. You can turn your palms up. We'll go back into the bear and hold it again, spreading the fingers, lifting the knees off. Breathe. Nice deep breath. One more wrist stretch, and if you like, we'd like to progress this to a plank, or you can do a third bear. So with the plank, it's a little bit more difficult, higher percentage of your body weight. Stepping back, make sure that you haven't locked out your elbows, so there's a slight bend in your elbows. As you step back, you can tighten up your hip muscles a little. Always lots of cues to throw out there to see if you can improve the quality of your movement. I feel nice and anchored in my shoulders, taking my body weight. It feels good. Okay, from here I'm going to take us up to standing. So nice transition. I like to remove my squishy mat, so I'm on my harder mat. And today we'll start with some weight shifts, side to side. Just opening up the toes. Lots goes on when you step to the side, your knee, the lateral stability of your knee and hip. So just take some time to feel it out, spreading the toes, and then we'll transition into some cross body taps. So weight shifting, lifting one knee, crossing over, and just continue to practice that. Here's some things to look for. As you bring your knee up, are you getting stable by locking out your base knee or perhaps leaning back? This would be things I don't want you to do. So try to keep a softness in your knee and keep your weight over your foot, using your toes, but not overly scrunching your toes. So if your toes grip on for dear life, see if you can go slow, open up and lengthen your toes, and then bring that knee up. To make this a little harder, you could go with a pause and a blink or close your eyes. That definitely takes away that component, visual component, and you can see as soon as I close my eyes, there's a lot more going on in my ankle, the reception through my ankle. We'll go to balance reaches next, remembering that this is a practice. So you can reach out, extending your heel back and your arms forward. Only go to a position that you can control. And sometimes you need to reach to a piece of furniture just to get a little feedback that you're square in the shoulders, that you haven't rotated the hip up or down. About 3 per side, alternating if you wish. Just taking some time to connect with that foot, and then push the heel back to the wall behind you. Can you get your arms a little higher? Maybe, maybe not. Balance is a very complicated thing, and working on it consistently will improve it. So be patient with yourself. Nice deep breathing as you go through this. The last one before we hit the strength set is our 1, 2, 3 freeze. So this is asking yourself to balance and create some stability for a moment before you transition again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm on my opposite foot. That wasn't a very good one, just so you know. About 10 of these, but going a little slower than me. You feel your foot, left, right, and then here. Maybe you want to blink or close your eyes for a moment here. If this is too hard for you, you could do it next to a piece of furniture or use a dowel, right? But all sorts of directions and angles, asking the hips for some stability. You can bend your knee a little bit more, get a little lower. What about out to the side? If we trip on a rock or something while we're walking, right? Often you're out to the side. So try and sort of recreate that in this safe environment. Nice work. Okay. For the strength set, I've created pairs. The first pair is a squat and either a wall push-up or a push-up or plank from the floor. So for the squat, if you're going to load your squats, now's the time you're going to get some weight. We're going to look at a rep range of 8. So you could use 2 dumbbells, 1 dumbbell, a kettlebell in the middle, setting up your squat position, feet hip width or wider, toes straight or slightly pointed out. You're pulling yourself down to a depth you can control. Inhale down, exhale up. Here we go. Up to 8. How do the ankles, knees, hips, back? We warmed up everything. So you can access the range that you've been working on in the warm-up. Looks great. So exercise pairs. The squat is paired with a wall push-up. I'm going to use my fireplace. Better move my water in case my nose tips it over. Find myself into a plank position. Pull myself in. What about that shoulder blade glide we worked on? Scapular mobility. As you pull yourself in, feel the shoulder blades come together. Push away. Feel them come apart. The further your feet are away from the wall, the harder this is. You can create more tension by going slow and thinking about that pull in with some work, push away with some work. Okay? One thing that's nice about using the wall is you really do get that motion through your shoulder blades. A push-up on the floor is 55% of your body weight. It takes a while to achieve the strength to do that. So using an elevated surface like a wall and then going to a coffee table, that kind of thing really works well. Because these exercises are paired, let's go back to the squat. Looking for a rep range of 8. You adjust based on how it's feeling. Here we go. So this little inner dialogue I have when I'm doing my exercise is everything's still feeling okay. 8 was great. You could see that it got my heart rate up a little bit. Was about the right weight for me today. Going over to the wall again. What number of push-ups can you do? As soon as you get that sense in the inner dialogue, like, oh, that maybe didn't feel so good in my neck. I'm shrugging. Stop, right? Pull yourself in with the control that you can muster and then push away. If you want to try something that is a little harder, you could go to a coffee table. And then hardest of all is planking or doing lowers or push-ups from the floor. Okay, so here's my plank. I could lower down and come onto my knees and come back up. And this would be the goal, that you can progress to a push-up, pulling yourself down and pushing away without losing your posture. Excellent. I see you trying some different levels. That's all it's about. A little sip of water and we'll move on. If you go to a higher level, like the coffee table, you know, you don't have to do the same number that you did at the wall, right? You can just like do one, go back to the wall, feel the shoulder blades, keep working that way. Okay, to move us on to half kneeling press from the up knee side. So you're going to take a weight that you can press from the up knee side. I'm going to give an option. If perhaps you can't press overhead, you could do a lateral movement with your shoulder. But if you can press overhead, you're going to press and pull back down from the up knee side 8 times. So open it up, pull back down. I like this sensation of not only working as you press overhead, but all the work that you can create as you bring it back to what I like to call the rack position. Remember, same with the squats, you can adjust the rep range based on how this is feeling. You reach a point where you're like, yeah, I think that's enough. Switch sides up to 8. Now this is a shoulder press exercise, but it's also a core exercise because you're maintaining your posture in this half kneeling position. Be mindful you're not leaning back or leaning to the side. If the weight is too much for you to control, you might find yourself doing that, leaning back or leaning to the side to get it overhead. Just going to grab my stretchy band because we're pairing this exercise with a long seated band row. Legs extend out. Put the middle of the band around your feet and get nice and tall. Pull the elbows to the sides and just feel those shoulder blades come together. Seems like that's a recurring theme this morning. It's working those postural muscles between the shoulder blades. You can change the width of your elbows, but be mindful you're not pulling back so far that your elbow comes all the way back and you just kind of wrench your shoulder and rotate it inward. I like to cue finishing the elbows at the sides, nice and upright. You can do 12 to 15 of these, depending on how hard you're making it tension-wise, okay? Not hard enough, walk your hands a little closer to your feet. And just to finish this off, you can probably see if I go wide, if I'm still finishing my elbows at the sides, it just recruits slightly different muscles through the back. Feels really good. Ooh, okay, that was a good one. Now let's go back because we're pairing this. So how did the weight feel that you chose the first time? Did you successfully get 8 reps? Right? There's no magic necessarily in these numbers. It's just what you can do well and consistently. There you go. I'll count this time. Such a terrible counter when I talk. There's 4. Trying not to lean back, staying tall in my posture. Working the lowering phase. Like it. Okay. Switch. Tall. Full. Because this weight is very manageable for me, I've got a little liberty with how I pull it back down. I can go a little wider. I'm not hurting myself. If this was closer to my max weight that I could press, I'm going to want to stay pretty straight up and straight down. I can open and lift and press and pull differently when the weight is more manageable. And that's actually a good thing, right? You want to do a little of both sometimes. Okay, and then back to the row. Set it up, get nice and tall, check the tension. That works. And go with the different widths of your pull through the elbows. And then there's my inner dialogue saying, yeah, I think that's about right. And I believe that was close to 12 reps for me. So I'm always thinking, I'm not doing a rep where it doesn't feel quite right just because of a number. Okay, we've got hip hinging and static lunge as the last pair of exercise in this program. So this is your hip hinge unloaded, right? There's lots of variations of hip hinges that we can do. We can use dumbbells. You can stay with body weight. If you inhale as your hips go back, the back stays nice and neutral. Exhale as you come up to posture. One of the things that's nice about doing this with dumbbells is you have the opportunity to open the dumbbells a little bit at the top of your move, so you get a little shoulder work. Sitting the hips back to the wall behind you as you inhale. Exhale up and open. Now this is not max weights again, so you've got 6, 8, 10 reps. Listening to the body in your back. Come up, open. Looks great. Now the static lunge, put the weights down to explain this one. You're in a split stance, so one leg goes back, and you're going to go up and down 6 to 10 times. Now, how far you go down is up to you. This front knee can go a little forward of your ankle if that feels okay on your knee. It's going to build some good strength in through the knee. But if your knees are a little creaky and you just want to stay a bit more upright, having the knee over the ankle, that works as well. Okay, so be thinking about that. Now, if you were to do 6 to 10 body weight, would that be enough? Or do you want to take some load and go with some weighted work? So I'm going to aim for 6 per side, and here we go. Got some good connection through my back toes. Switching the front foot. Okay, so we're going to alternate this with the hip hinge. So we go back to the hip hinge with weight if you like. And the hip hinge is kind of a hip-driven movement that keeps your back neutral. So I'll give you a little visual with the dowel. As I sit my hips back, my knees bend, but they don't go forward as in a squat. So I'm inhaling as my hips go back and exhaling as I come back up. When you don't keep a neutral back, you might round, right? You might extend your back. You would feel some tension, perhaps in places that you shouldn't. So use that visual that I just showed you with the dowel. Inhale, hips go back. Exhale, come back up. Option to open. This is how to strengthen the hips, very functional. Stand tall, give your hips a little squeeze together. Look straight ahead. Very nice. Up to 10 of those. And then I'm going to have a sip of water and do the lunges one more time. So I chose 6 as my number. With weight, it could be body weight. It could be a little higher. If your body weight, connect with that front foot. You can see that my back foot is nice and straight, so check that. And then dropping down to a depth you can control. Looks great. Switch the front foot. Great job. Okay, so I like the way that the exercise pairs work for this program. We're going to finish with get up practice. And so I'll put my lighter mat back down. I'm going to run through the get up to high bridge, which means I start on my back. I've got my right arm up, right knee bent, left arm and leg out on an angle. Kind of adjusting my posture just a little bit. So I've got some connection through my torso by pressing down my mid to low back. A breath in, and here I go to my elbow. From the elbow, I'm making sure I'm not in a shrug. I flatten my hand and press up to a tall sitting position. Now here you want to bring your hand in so that you can feel that between your hand and your foot, you can lift off the floor. And then come back to the floor with your hips. Very nice. And then just slowly bend the elbow and roll back down to your elbow and back down to the floor. So listening to your body, how did that feel through the neck and shoulder? How you change this angle is important. And you really just have to practice to find the sweet spot that when you come up, you're not in a shrug. Okay? And then you press the hand and come up, pull it in just a bit. Got that sweet spot, lift. You can continue to look up at your hand. Come down to the floor with your hips, down to the elbow slowly, and roll away. Now I'm going to switch sides, see how that feels on the opposite side. Okay. Trying to find that sweet spot. Chin tuck, core set, little breath in, to the elbow, to the hand. Okay, I'm going to pull that in a smidge. Up, down, elbow, and down. So somebody asked me yesterday, is the get up going to continue to be my favorite exercise for 2025? Of course, yes, of course. So we're progressing this. If you know the full get up, go ahead and do a full get up to standing and back down. But trust me, this is a focus for this class. We're going to get there. Never want to lose the ability to get up and down from the floor as we age. The get up pulls together balance, lunge, core, shoulder strength, right? All of these things can be done within almost a minute. You can do one get up per side, not too fast. And so I want to thank you for your attention to the class and to the practice of growing your strength. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks very much for joining.